my background is I've been in the intellectual and developmentally disabled field for about 30. This is my 30th year. And I started hands-on as an in-home skills trainer working with children. And then I moved on to work in a skill building program, Life Skills, which I know a lot of folks are probably familiar with. They operate in 3 counties, Macomb, Oakland, and St. Clair. And I did community development, looking at, creating meaningful and engaging community experiences for individuals attending the program. And I also served as a support coordinator at AMORC for several years and worked in their vocational department. So I've had a lot of experience with what's being offered. And I know that there are some great programs, and I have some great, other vendor or providers in the vocational services field. But I guess starting out in Macomb County now with STEP and kind of working with the employment side more than the skill building side, I'm kind of curious to know what individuals and families are really looking for. So this year is our 50th anniversary serving Wayne County. So we have offices all throughout Wayne County. We have 2 in Dearborn. We have Southgate. We have Detroit. We have Westland. We do a lot of really cool and unique kind of skill building and also employment programs. So I'll be able to share that with everybody. So I appreciate this kind of, just informal kind of meeting where folks, I can share about us and kind of hear, since we're new in Macomb County, get to hear about what families are looking for as well.
Yeah, great.
I'm curious, Zach, AMORC members, are they primarily Macomb County or is it Macomb and Oakland? I wasn't exactly sure.
So it's primarily Oakland, but the secondary county is Macomb. So it's started very much a Macomb and Oakland thing, and is over the past 40 years kind of grown into a more wherever people are at in the state. But the hub is really Oakland and Macomb.
Okay, fantastic. So as I was saying with STEP, it's Services to Enhance Potential. We are a vocational and skill building program that's primarily been in Wayne County. This is our 50th year. Just this past October, we've received a contract with Macomb County Community Mental Health, and we're also working with Michigan Rehabilitation Services. They're also referred to by MRS a lot. So we have a few things already set up and are ready to go. We've not had referrals yet. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share what we have right now ready to go. If anybody is interested in doing some, we call them internships. We have an internship, which is a paid work and training experience that we're operating out of Harbor Oaks Hospital, which is in New Baltimore on 23 Mile Road. We have the ability to take up to 8 individuals to work with in the dietary and housekeeping departments. And ideally, it would be a 90-day sort of 3-month program where then the Harbor Oaks folks have expressed interest in if we work together and identify somebody who has the skills and is interested in being directly hired with them, that they will move kind of from that training opportunity, which is paid internship, into actual employment with Harbor Oaks Hospital. So that is ready to go. It would be a Monday. We're flexible with schedule and days right now because it's brand new. So that's just something I wanted to let everyone know about, especially folks who might reside in Macomb County that's ready to go. I also have been meeting with a lot of the schools and sharing information about our summer Earn and Learn program. We're going to be partnering with Michigan Rehabilitation Services and the schools in northern and southern Macomb County to do a 6-week paid work experience, training and work experience that will start in June. And the schools are going to be sharing information about that program next month. So we hope to identify some students by May and kind of start looking at what they might be interested in doing for a work experience. I've had some conversations in Macomb County again, through the MISD, the Flynn Center and Lutz, and have kind of talked with Lutz a little bit about the potential to start a project search program. So for students who are maybe identified as going on an employment track, but could use some hands-on support. The Project Search is a really cool program. Not sure if you're familiar with that, Zach or Mr. Miono. I know that they do offer that through New Horizons in Oakland County. Since this is a fresh start, I'm able to kind of craft programs, to what the need is.
Well, tell me a bit about, like, you're getting a summer program together.
Sure.
What sort of success do the people get some experiences, or do they become independent, or how's the getting them into? I think you're mainly talking about independent employment and living, or mainly employment?
So with the summer experience, it's geared toward high school students that are in 11th and 12th grade that are at the high school that have been identified that are eligible for MRS services. So students who have an IEP. And what we do is I, as a vendor, go out and engage with opportunity to provide you with a student who is going to work. The employer not pay. It's paid. The student is paid through Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and I am there as a liaison between the student and the employer to kind of like, I can be present, for a certain amount of time. It kind of is individualized and depends on the particular individual. So if somebody, it's not where I would be there 100% as a job coach would, but it would be someone to kind of help, are you asking questions such as, is there any aspect of the job that you don't understand? How's things going with the coworkers? Do you have any questions for the supervisor? Those sorts of more refining kind of skills with the students. So it's someone who the school kind of has identified that, yes, this individual could be a good candidate. I've been asked by MRS to look at sites such as a retail site, a food service site, a cleaning site. I asked just because I've had some experience. I am the parent of a child with a mild cognitive development and Tourette's syndrome. And so I have a perspective on, from that end to like when I'm kind of doing my own job development with my son. He reads at a 3rd grade level, and he's an awesome swimmer, loves the water, loves swimming. So found a position for a lifeguard, but he had to, of course, pass CPR and first aid. So I went and talked with the director and I said, look, I'd like you to interview him, please. And then maybe we could chat interview he's very personable, went well, and then sat down and talked about, well, he would need someone to read the test. He might need it read to him several times for him to understand. And the lady was great. She went through that. She said, I promise if it takes me 10 times, we're going to get this kid through CPR and first aid. And he's done great. But so those are, I want to be able to talk with the kids and find things more that, they're going to be successful with. I know there's been a big push over the last few years for competitive integrated employment. And with me coming from a skill building background, I know that a lot of the folks might never, go into competitive integrated employment. But I think it's finding, things in the community that are meaningful, engaging. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this employment, is where, it might be 3 or 4 hours a day, 3-4 days a week, 5 days. It just depends. I'm looking at taking baby steps and working, with folks as individuals, because if they're not excited or interested, food service, my son could never do it. It moves way, way too fast. It's just, it would not be a good fit. But so to kind of, right now is a great time for us to be, or for me, I should say, to be working on these kinds of things, because a lot of smaller businesses might be open to, having a student work there that they don't have to pay. It's just kind of like teaching, and I have actually, there's a pet boarding place that I have in mind, because I've had a lot of kids express interest in animals. So it'll give them a good experience as to, animals are great and fun, but there's also, some other pieces that they have to actually do. And, it'll be a good, kind of learning experience for the kids, I'm sure.
They get paid the same amount as other employees?
Yeah, it's minimum wage.
Yeah,
they would,
I appreciate that, yes.
Yep.
And then the steps supply job coaches and whatnot, or is it all kind of community-based is the model? Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm framing that right. Like, is it more?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, historically, STEP comes from a place like, I don't know if you're more familiar with probably like JVS or New Horizons, where they have large production facilities. And STEP does have some of those, and they are shrinking because, just the funding is changing, right? So, STEP, as far as skill building, they have done some really cool things. Like they have, it's called the PASC program, which is a progressive art collaboration. And I got to go to 2 of their openings. They run, it's ran by an actual artist and within our facilities. And they have the art students, they work on pieces. And then there's the instructor who is I'm sorry, I'm newer at STEP, so I couldn't even tell you the degree that he has in art, but he curates the pieces, and they've had showings at 2 galleries, and all the money that, the artists earn goes directly to them. And it's a pretty cool program. I've enjoyed seeing that. We also operate 1, 2, 3, 4 thrift stores that we run internship programs at. So folks come from our skill building program and move into internships at the thrift stores, which is a paid job. And they work, they start out with training with a skills trainer in the back of the shops, learning, from the ground up, from when donations come in, how to sort the donations, what stuff is great to go out onto the floor, what stuff needs to be pitched, what stuff can be scrapped. Then they work on hanging the items in an attractive manner. They work on pricing the items, and they typically work in a group of 6 6 interns with 1 skills trainer. And then they also go out and put the merchandise on the floor, and kind of do some merchandising, how to make things look attractive, keeping the shop looking, presentable. And that I've had the opportunity to work in the back at the thrift stores, and it's really cool. I think that's something neat that they do. And then a lot of times folks have been hired as clerks at those thrift stores directly. We have a regional sales manager for the store. So actually the stores operate kind of separate with their employees, and STEP provides the interns who go through the training, paid training and employment there. And I thought it sounded a little nuts at first when I heard of it, because I've seen thrift stores before that have been ran by some programs, and they just really missed the mark. It just didn't. I know that they had a good intent, but maybe the knowledge of how to actually one with retail experience, running these things. And STEP does have that. So I think they've been really successful. And it's actually really cool. They've been so successful that they're able to do, it's called Double Your Difference Partner, and they pick a local charity, and each month they give proceeds. I think it's 2% of the sales to the other local charity. So
that's great.
It's quite successful.
It's really good. So if I can jump back to I'm really intrigued by this high school program. I think that's really neat. So when you are linking up the folks in the high school with an employer, so MRS pays for their hourly wages, and then is the employer then essentially the skills coach? Or I forget.
No.
So they would be maybe, I guess, I know it's as it should be, everything's individualized. But if someone needed a job coach or a skills, I forget the term you used, but was
right. At this point, they don't have somebody with them consistently. If there were, a particular issue where someone's having a really hard time, I would go out there and see if we could, work out what the issue is. But I think the schools that we're working with the teachers to kind of identify, the kids that are kind of ready to start those entry level type jobs. There's all kinds of other really cool things that are going on just within the Metro Detroit region. It's just kind of starting, but they're looking at things for kind of more some higher level things as well, like for folks who are on the spectrum. So that's kind of still in the very early stages. But are you looking more to kind of speak as to folks who have kind of higher physical needs, or?
I guess I'm just generally inquiring. I was just curious kind of what that looked like. I think I through my high school went to Clarkston High School, and we had a great peer-to-peer program. And I'm sitting here brainstorming while you're talking about how this would look, thinking, well, you can almost kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So if any of these schools have peer-to-peer programs, you could maybe even go to the employer, look, you're going to pay one because you're going to hire both. And you almost have that on-site person who has the relationship and all those things and their peers, and you can start kind of melding the community and in the clinical, we'll say, but those 2 things being much more natural.
Yeah, it's really cool idea, especially since it's a summer program. When my son, he tried the lifeguarding last summer, it was too much for him to continue once school started. It's just overwhelming. Sure. So, but it was great, during the summer for him to have the structure and the routine, and Andy was feeling pretty darn good because he was earning money and meeting some other people, because there's not a whole lot of friends, right? Sure. So the kids at the pool were great. So Yeah.
That's really great. Mr. Miono, sorry, do you have any other questions for April?
Let me ask, you are starting with STEP recently?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and your motivation sort of to change was what prompted you to come to this particular organization?
Well, actually, I like that. I think it's always been a struggle bridging, right, from skill building programs to the employment, because you have folks who might need that coach there the whole time, right? So, like a lot of the folks that I've worked with, I thought, my gosh, like this person, I could take this group of folks, this group is 4 folks, who I'm taking to volunteer, and we're outside at rec centers, Roseville Recreation Center, and we're raking leaves, we're trimming hedges, and this is volunteer, right? And I'm thinking, my gosh, it would be great but how do you do it? And I never had the time to sit and focus because, all everywhere in this field, you're in charge of a million things, right? And you don't have the time. So a friend of mine that I worked with at AMORC approached me and said, I'm working at STEP and I said, I've never heard of it. Tell me about it. And when she explained to me about the intern programs, I just thought that is really cool, because here is those group of folks that from the skill building have been inside the skill building program, right? And they've figured out the way to make that bridge into paid employment, yet they still have that support there. Like they figured out how to do that bridge. So I just thought that was cool. And especially with the way funding is moving, I think that it's important for all of us to think how we can incorporate employment for folks. I'm sure you're familiar with Dutton Farms. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with Dutton Farms, Mr.
Yes.
Miono. Yeah. So if you look at how their model started, they kind of have, they figured their niche, right? They figured out kind of how to do this too. So I think we all have to kind of start, definitely at minimum, the volunteer experience is an important piece, right? That we're giving back to communities and that people are getting outside of the facilities and into, more natural settings. But the important part is also having that support, right, for the person, especially if they have needs that personal care needs or whatnot. So, I think that, to me, it's kind of like the start. So where I can figure out how to take this from here, we just had a meeting this morning with myself and my supervisor and a coworker, and we're saying, okay, how do we do this now in another setting? Thrift stores or janitorial, there's so many more areas, and now it's a really great time because of the hiring situation, right? That's why I decided to move to STEP.
Okay, I showed up today because with my daughter, having spent 40 or whatever years, she's never going to work. And it's an area of special needs that I'm unfamiliar with. And so I'm here to kind of learn some of the other things that are done with special needs people. And I think it's very challenging because I know people who have been successful, who is the most popular person at the local big boy and still living in a group home, and others who you keep trying, and for other reasons, it's just not successful. So that's why I showed up today, and it's nice to see your smiling face. And I thought Zach offered pizza, but maybe I missed that part.
It'll be arriving shortly.
Okay.
Well, I really do appreciate you coming. And I think it's important, like, I'm excited because, like, I know that our folks who have been in, like, when I left I started Life Skills. I had been back and forth with them for 20 years. And when it's like every time you leave there, because of this whole, HIPAA and whatnot, you have to leave. I'm leaving like 100 people. I know their names. I know their, I like just so many things. And I was thinking about that today, like, man, I wish I could go and, but I've been in Oakland County. I've had conversations and meetings saying, you need to get out of these buildings. I understand that, but at the same time, please don't pull the rug out, right? I want to make sure, and I want to make sure that, if my son needs support, that, it's there. These folks, the volunteer work it's a fantastic, amazing, beautiful thing too. And I think that it's super important because it's just something I really believe in as well. But anyways, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. And if you have anybody that, wants to ask questions about connecting with MRS or high school transitions or anything like that, I'd be happy to.
April, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I was actually going to say the same thing that Mr. Miona did. I would love for even, we're going to be having, it looks like, quarterly AMORC meetings. That seems to be what the consensus that everyone's looking for. I would love to have, if you want to be a part of that, and just
that'd be great.
Even if it's just quicker updates and just to continue the conversation. And I would really like, again, the membership is quite large, and I would really like to get a lot of their perspectives, especially, the aging folks, the middle-aged folks, and then the younger folks in terms of like their children and their employment needs and the struggles.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to connect with some of the families who have kids that are under 26 and,
right.
help them have conversations with schools, because I've had some conversations with schools and I was kind of surprised at where they were at in their minds. So, it'd be great.
And that's really, that's a big kind of personal goal for me with AMORC, is getting a younger membership, because historically everyone has come in once they receive services through MORC,
right.
And we're kind of doing, we're going to be kind of pushing in a way that's more like we're statewide. It's not geographically based, and it's not necessarily just a MORC thing anymore. It's spread into something much larger. So it would be really great. And if we get a nice chunk of younger parents, I think this would be, for everybody, it's going to be super helpful. And I really do thank you for your time. And it's, I'm looking forward to just learning more about STEP myself. So really cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be around. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.